Hi everybody, welcome back to Winning with Sketchup. Adam with you once again. In this video I want to talk about dealing with raster architectural plans. So there's a lot of times where we're asked as visualization artists to model a home and we don't necessarily have access to the CAD file itself, so we can't import a DWG and have the ability to work off of those lines directly. And I have a project here that I'm working on now, and this is the case in this project, and all I have are PDF files which are not vectorized, so I can't even take them in and convert them. I could try to take them into something like WinTopo or Vector Magic and try to convert the raster over into vector, but it's never really a good result, especially when I have images like this, which are, you see we have a lot of grayscale gradient here. They're created from some kind of a BIM program, probably a chief architect or something like that. So we've got all of this grayscale here. It's really hard to convert that. So what I'll typically do is take that PDF and convert that over into some kind of an image format, usually PNG. Seems to work the best with SketchUp. So I use, to do that, I use Bluebeam Review is the software that I use. So I'll take that out of here and then I'll just export. There's an option here in Bluebeam Review here under File. You can go to Export and export as some different formats. If you don't have the luxury to a commercial program like this, you can always use a software like Inkscape, and you can take your PDF file out of Inkscape here, and you have the ability then to export PNG images out of here. And once you do that, you can bring them over into SketchUp. And a few pointers here when working with these image files in SketchUp is you want to first get them in and scale them to the right size. And hopefully everybody knows how to do that. So you take your image in. It'll usually come in as an image file, so you want to explode that and then regroup that down. Get inside of the group itself, find a known measurement inside of the group, and go ahead and trace over that, let's say the 6-foot measurement here, and you would redraw that and then type that in. After 2 clicks of the tape measure, and it would resize the group. So you go in, first of all, you make sure everything's to scale. And once you have that to scale, you can go in and start to, what I like to do is I like to take all of my raster plans, at least the section views here. So if we have a front, back, left, and right, I like to take those and start to trace over them. And that's going to be the geometry essentially of my model. I'm gleaning right here from the plan, so, or from the section view. And a few pointers is what I'll usually do is get in here, and you can line it up to your orthographical camera, which helps to keep things flat. Or if you're pretty used to using your orthogonal snaps and things, your inferences in SketchUp, then you can not worry about that. But the first thing I'll typically do on a plan like this, where if I'm getting in here and I'm trying to, let's say, redraw these windows, and we see we have this black heavy line weight here. So I've drawn a set of edges there, but you can't even really tell that it's there. So as you're going, a lot of times it's really hard. You'll have to toggle back and forth, maybe between monochrome mode and textured mode to see those, and that could be a little bit challenging. So what I'll do is in the styles menu is, and I'll typically work in this construction documentation style. That's my go-to drawing style that I'll use all the time, and that's what I'm in right now. But I'll jump over into edit and then go into the edges mode here. And a little tip is, if you drop this color of your edges, set it to all same and drop it to pure white and hit OK, it's going to change the background to black. And it's just something that SketchUp does by default. And if I go all the way over to pure black, then it's going to change the background to pure white. But anywhere in between, it doesn't change at all. So I can go all the way up to almost white, and it'll keep the background white. But as soon as you get to pure white, to the point those edges would be invisible, then SketchUp says, hey, you're not going to be able to see those edges, so I'm going to change the background color to black. And we can see here that the background has become black. So I'll do that again and change that to the edge color to all black, and we see the background has automatically changed to white. So I like to work here with the edges as white, and I'll go to X-ray mode. So you can go to View, Face Styles, and then go to X-ray. And you can see what that does is it took the PNG image file here that I'm working with, which is now a group, and now look at that edge that I drew before. It's a lot more noticeable. So I'll go in now, and I typically use the rotated rectangle tool, and we can go in here and start to draw. And with something like this, I'll draw usually from the outside in. So this is more the way I would do it, and then just get in here, offset. I like to use the divide edge or split faces tool. Sorry, this is in the edge tools, and this is the first icon here, and it allows you to do something very similar to what the tape measure tool is. So you can take an edge and just pull it across, and you can very quickly start to lay things out. And I'll go between, say, that and the offset tool. I like to use Fredosix scale as well, and depends on how small things are. Typically I'll scale things up to make working with those easier, but you can use this Fredosix scale to move these edges around, move them from the center. So I like to do that as well. Seems to save a little bit of time when you're working with two edges at the same time. So, and as much as I can, I'll try to recycle to make sure things match up. So instead of trying to redo this, since I did those adjustments over here, I just want to grab these edges, not the interior face. So I'll deselect that, and I'll go from a corner over here to a corner over here, and that way I know that the distance here and the distance here are the same. And the idea is that this is going to end up being the geometry in the model. So I'm very careful at this point with what I'm doing. So we can go through now, and again, rotated rectangle. And that's just a personal preference. You can use the normal rectangle tool. Pull that down, and then edge mode I have set up to keyboard shortcut Alt-D, so I can call that really quickly. It's really comfortable while keeping my right hand on the mouse. So even in a situation like that, I typically won't pull those all out together like that. I just want to grab these here, and we're just going to move over a copy as we go, and that'll make sure that everything is the same size here. Delete that edge, move that over, grab this and move that over to here, and now we can get in here and I'll offset this. And I deselect the faces just because I'm working with this material here, and it's what, if we even go into our material library and we would sample this, this is the plan as part of the material. So if I would move something and I have the faces selected, we can see that E203 there. Let me close that. I'll actually be moving the texture along with the face there. So, and I'll go and retexture this all to white then, but for now I just typically would use just the edges. And you do have to go in sometimes, and I'll use this S4U make faces tool, and I could just run that, and does a really good job at making these faces. So double click, deselect the center, and then just move the edges over here, snap them to there, and get in here, offset this. And this is just very basic modeling. I'm not adding detail yet. And you can see we have everything there. And I'm just going to go through here and finish building these matching windows here. And I just want to show you something that I started doing since I got this S4U2 components plugin. And again, I know I keep going back to this plugin and talking a lot about it, but I really can't say enough good things about this plugin. It's such a time saver and really is a game changer in SketchUp when you're dealing with components and being able to create components even at this level of modeling just off of the 2D plan view here. So let me show you what I mean here. Let me just get in here, offset this, and again split face tool here. I'm just going to pull these out. I'm just going to go from the midpoint there, and they don't have to be perfect, but so now I'm just going to get in here, offset this, and we'll utilize the double click offset to make sure things match up here. And we've got a couple more of those similar windows over here, so I'll kind of trace over these and let's offset that, and it's way too much, so I'm just going to skip the offset here, come over to about here, over to about here, and pull that in, and then double click there. So now once I get going here and start redrawing everything, and I'll redraw all of these hard edges here, redraw all the windows. But what's nice with the S4U2 Components plugin is even at this 2D stage, it will allow me to go in, and I'll use another plugin here first. But what it's going to do here is allow me to see, I'll go in here and I'll make groups. Alright, so I'm going to make all these windows that are the same into groups. So I'm just double click, and use my shortcut for make group. And you can see up here I'm making a group out of each one of these. They're not instances of each other. And they're just individual groups here with no copy definition. They're not group copies at all. So another thing you could do here, and I'll undo that and get all the way back. I like to use this plugin quite a bit, and it's I forget the author of the plugin, but you can select all this geometry that you created, and there's a Faces to Groups plugin. And I want to say that maybe it's KYUU that created it. I'm not 100% sure here, but you can look up Faces to Groups, and we're going to do faces by any edge, or group by any edge, and see what happened is it went through and it makes a group out of everything here. So the only downside to that is in an instance like this, because it grouped the glass, it didn't cut this out. So now this is a solid face and we have the glass here on the inside. But if you wanted to quickly and easily, you can see our framing here is a group. All of these panels here, individual groups. And the nice thing about that is once you have those with the S4U2 Components plugin, I can grab, let's say I grab all of these groups here and just show you what they look like. They're all different sizes. So you can see these are two different widths over here. So I can grab all of these and use this button here, which is the second to last button, and watch what happens. I'm going to undo that. And I'll select them all, and you can see we have 4 groups. They're not copies, they're just individual groups. I can select them all and use this button here, which is convert groups into components. And it creates components, but it creates instancing components, which is amazing. And that's the real game changer of this, is that it took one of these components and created instances and then just scaled those instances to fit. So now I can get in here and I can work with these and start to do whatever I want. Add some beveling, start to push-pull these. When it comes to texturing, I just have to texture one and they all texture. So it really does save a lot of time using that and going through. So the other thing I like to do before I even get to that point, and let me explode those there. So now we have all of these groups. And we can see if I get into, let me back this up here. There we go. And we can see if I get into these groups here. Look at these edges that are, let me back this all the way up here to get out. There we go. Now we can see there's an extra vertice there, and it's from this edge that was drawn here. So when we trace these out everywhere, and I'll back this up here, and let's go all the way back to the point where before we made these. There we go. Now these are all faces here. So I'm just going to turn on vertex tools just so we can see where all these vertices are. So we see there's a vertice here, and that's connected to both of these faces. So when I go through and I made these all into groups here, and I'm going to do a redo, or I'll just run that again. Let me just grab all of these just to show you. Go to make faces by groups, or faces to groups, and by any edge, and that'll go through, turned all of these into groups. But now you can see we have those extra vertex or extra vertices there on every one of these. Not on that one, but on this one. Anywhere that we had, we'll grab this frame here, open that, turn on vertex tools, and we see we have those extra vertices everywhere. So the nice thing is, once we go through, we trace over all of these. We use the Faces to Groups plugin. Now these are all set to groups. I'm going to grab all of these groups. We can see, use selection toys here. Grab only the groups. See, we have 48 groups here altogether. What I can do is, in the Fredotools library, there's an option here called Remove Lonely Vertices, and it will work over multiple groups. So it'll search down into the nested geometry inside of the group. It will find any vertices that are on a collinear edge that don't belong. So anything that it can remove, it'll remove. So we'll go through and watch this. I'm going to run this Remove Lonely Vertices. So 44 lonely vertices it went through and removed. And that's 44 edges that you don't have to clean up once you start extruding and modeling this geometry. So it didn't change anything. But now when we get into a face like this, and we would push-pull this, we turn off X-ray mode, we can see there's no extra edges there like we had before. So it got rid of that extra vertice where that line was broken, and it rebuilt those edges. So now we just have one edge there. And it's a real time saver to go and do that at this point. Make everything into groups and then run the Remove Lonely Vertices, and it will really speed up the modeling. So, but now we can go through, and I'm going to grab these two, make these into a group, make these into a group, make these into a group, and I'm just going to go through all these matching windows here. And you can see they're not all the same size. They're all a little bit different in scale. but I'm going to go through, grab them all, and make these all into groups here. And you see we just have one in the model as far as the definition goes. And I'm going to select these, and again, you see this is wider than this one. These ones at the door are a little narrower. But I can go and select all of these. And I'm going to use this option here in the S4U, Groups to Components, and watch what happens. They still fit, and I forgot that one. So let me undo that. And make that into a group. Just make sure. Okay. Alright, so now we can go. I'm just going to grab all of these groups that I made. And quickly I can convert all of them into instances. Now I have 14 of those in the model. So when it comes to modeling these now, and we can get in here, go to color, and go down, grab a white, and get in here. We want to make our frame white. I can get in here, explode that glass. So now we can get in and do any modeling that we needed to do. Go into glass here, grab glass material. We could get in here and do some, let's say, some round edge, kind of just this chamfering option. Put a little bevel on the edge there to add a little detail. And with selection toys, there's this option here which will allow you just to select an edge like that. So you can select a set of edges and we can throw a little chamfer on there. You can see that added some nice detail there. I didn't want to select that other edge there, so let me just back this up and just select that. Spacebar, and then we're going to run that there and just delete that face, and now we can see we have good nice edges there. Let me turn this back to black. You can see we have nice looking detail there. Very quickly, all of those windows we did, they're all instances, and that quickly we were able to model all of those windows on that side of the house that are all kind of facing the same way. So what we can do now is with selection toys, you can also, there's an option here to go to instances, select all. So now that they're all instances, I can select them all very quickly, and I have that set to a keyboard shortcut. So I can very quickly select all these. I'm going to cut them, and now I've removed them from the model. And I could paste them back in place. But first I'm going to close this group here that I'm in. And let's see, we get back to our model here, and we have our walls and things that we've extruded. So now I can paste those back in place. And the last little pointer is using the Throw To plugin from ThomThom. And we can see that here. And I have that set to a keyboard shortcut here, Alt-Shift-T, but I use this Throw To Plane all the time. So now we have all of these windows that are sitting there, and all I have to do is call that Throw To Plane, and I use my keyboard shortcut, click on the wall here, and all of them come across and will stick themselves right to the wall. So that quickly and easily I was able to go through, glean all of that from this raster image, model those windows, and shoot them across, stick them to my model, and generally, this is a little bit off here because I was playing with it, but generally they'll fall right into line with where they need to be. And if you have your walls built with holes for the windows. If you do your walls with thickness and things, you can just do that very quickly there. So undo that. And one other little pointer, if you're using SketchUp Pro, there's this plugin Holes on Solids, which works really, really well. And what you can do then is, let's say, I'm just going to draw something arbitrarily, but let's say I have a rectangle here, and I'm going to grab that, and let me just cut that for now. Control X. And let me get in here to my model, and we can see that we have just a solid group here for this wall. And I like to build everything with solids, but so now we have this face here that's going to represent where our window is going to go. So all we have to do now is we can run this Hole on Solid plugin. We don't have to have anything selected. So we can just run this. We're going to select our solid, and we're going to select our face, and that went through and just punched a hole right through the wall there. And made a little bit of a mess to the geometry. I like this Fix It 101 plugin, and that'll go through and clean anything up very quickly. You can use cleanup from ThomThom. It just takes a little bit longer to process. Fix It seems to do a good job every time. But now we have a nice clean hole punched right through our wall there with thickness. You can also back that up if we had multiple holes here. Let me just scale this over. And let's say we had more than one. We can just select both of those and now run this other option here for multi-hole. So with the faces pre-selected, we run that and then just click on our solid, and we can see that that went through and punched through that. And I'll just run my Fix It shortcut there, and very quickly we have good clean hole punches. So you can use that when working with your architectural plans. If everything is lined up properly and you have these sitting over here, you can just go through, and once you have your walls and things up, you can trace around where the windows are going to go, select every one of those, and select all of them, and then just use your multi-hole option here in this Holes on Solid plugin, and then just click on your walls. As long as it's a solid, it'll go through and punch a hole right through that, and then you can use your Throw To plugin and shoot these across, stick them to the wall, and they'll stick right over that hole, right where that needs to be. So there's a bunch of other things I could get into, but I'm going to leave it at that for now. There's some pointers on working with raster images when modeling a house or doing anything architectural. So have a great day. We'll see you in the next video, and as always, I hope that was helpful.